All right, this is part 2 of another video about how to build social confidence when it comes to being comfortable with the opposite sex, approaching women, whether you want to build general confidence and make friends, whatever it is. In particular, I think most guys, they have trouble with the opposite sex. When we talk about social confidence for guys, it usually is the opposite sex, right? Most guys don't have a problem with just seeing a guy. Like, we're not going out of our way to hunt other guys down in order to be friends with them, right? It just kind of happens naturally. But most of the time with women or the opposite sex, we're sort of trying to figure this part in our lives out, and we are consciously going out there to do that, right? So for the sake of that, in this one, I'm particularly making a part 2 in order to highlight that aspect of social confidence, right? How do you go out there and master, well, not master, I'm not a master, but feel like you have a solid ground when it comes to this, right? And again, I'm not a dating coach. I don't want to pose myself as one. I just have things that I'm learning for myself as I'm going out there and putting myself out there, that I wish someone would tell me this if I didn't know that, right? So a recap of the last one, right? So when it comes to approaching women, it's all about a numbers game, building confidence and all of that. There's a couple of things I've written down here which I think are important to know. I have them in front of me so I know exactly how I'm going to break this down. I think these are important to know when it comes to approaching women and how you set up your life around that so it doesn't become something that is draining your energy. I think that was part of the aspect of all of this that I didn't really get a chance to hone in on the last video, where I think if you just take my advice at face value, you run with it, you can fall into what I was falling into, which was I'm going out there approaching a whole bunch of women, but at the same time, I'm neglecting myself, right? So the first thing that I have here when it comes to approaching women is that you have to put your activities in social routine first. So what does that mean, right? So for me, what that means is that you basically shouldn't, in my opinion, live a lifestyle where you're doing this door-to-door style of approaching women. So what that means is, for example, you're basically going down on a hunt, right? Which is what I used to do, and I'm working on not doing anymore. You basically are going out to grocery stores or you're going out to the mall where you have really no intentions of being in those places, but you're going there for the sole purpose of approaching women, right? And you're in this hunting energy. And this could go on for the whole evening. If you're like me, you have a lot of energy and you have a very obsessive energy. When you have a desire to do something, you can really obsess about it to the point where you're going the whole afternoon and evening, going from store to store, mall to grocery stores, just hunting down women, right? You're just hunting, you're just out there fishing, right? So putting your activities first, social routine first, what that means is you want to create a life where you are prioritizing yourself first. So if you go to the gym, you're working on your business, you're taking care of those things first, right? So the way I like to break it down for me is you have your finances first, whatever it is that you do for your money, and then you have your fitness, and then your social routine, because we're a social creatures, your brain is a social brain. Your social routine would be the activities that you like to do, and you're going out there and you're doing them for the sake of you doing your own thing, right? Not necessarily that you're going out there to meet women. And you want that to be the foundation from which everything else comes in when it comes to approaching women, right? The reason why that's important is because a huge part of the reason why there's anxiety, or if you're someone who lacks confidence when it comes to talking to the opposite sex, is because there's too much thought that's going into doing it. So what I didn't realize with going out there and grocery store hopping was, by doing that, I was putting so much effort around approaching women itself that created an outcome dependency in itself, because I was so focused and locked in to the thing, to the point where I wasn't really thinking about myself throughout the day. It was, okay, which grocery store could I go to so I could see fine women, right? That's what it was all about. And that created a situation where I'm not putting myself first. I'm not prioritizing myself. And I think what happens is your environment can kind of pick up on that energy, and you kind of reflect that because you are literally neglecting yourself. Like, there were times where I would basically skip whatever it is I had to do just so I could be outside, looking for and approaching women, right? So when you build the discipline, right, because there's two sides of this. There's one side where you have anxiety, you lack the confidence to approach women, but then there's also the other side, which I'm figuring out, which is being able to say no to basically attractive women in general, and paying them any mind. That's also another thing where you're able to say no. Even, for example, if you're driving around somewhere and you see, for example, if I'm making this video, I see a girl passing through here, the old me would be like, hold on, wait, I gotta go talk to that girl, right? Being able to go from that into me saying, okay, I'm making a video right now, that'll have to wait, I'll go back, or no, that girl can go, right? I'm making a video right now, I'm not about that right now, right? So being able to say that is part of the thing that's going to make it so that when you are in a situation where you can talk to women and you are free, you are like, your confidence just goes up by 50%, I feel like, because at that point you weren't really concerned in putting too much energy on the women, and you were able to prioritize yourself, and that energy carries through, right? So that's the first thing. So put your finances first, put your fitness, and then put your social routine first. So figure out, what do you like to do? So one game or one activity that I started picking up on is playing pool. Now, the bars that are around me, if I go, let's say on a random Wednesday, right, to practice, because I suck at pool right now. If I go there and I'm going there to specifically play pool, I might meet women there, I might not meet women there. But the point is, I'm not going there to meet women, like, primarily. I'm going there to play pool. And if I happen to run into a woman while I'm there, then I will talk to the women while I'm there. That's how you sort of want to have this going. So, for example, today, I was telling myself, all right, I'm not going to talk to no woman at all, right? And I woke up, I was kind of slacking with my fitness routine. So I woke up, I grabbed 45 pounds, and I went to the park. I avoided the gym. So I was like, I'm not going to the gym, I'm going to the park. And the reason why I went to the park today was because I was thinking to myself, all right, I'm not going to see nobody there. There's not going to be anyone that I'm running into. And lo and behold, as I started grabbing the 45 pounds, walking to the pull-up bar, I was running into women left and right that were my type. From the time I was driving down on the road, it was women left and right that were my type. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's crazy. It was like something was dingling around my face, and it was like, yeah, are you sure you're not going to talk to any women? But anyways, the point is, while I'm there, I didn't go there to basically talk to women. I literally went there for myself. And I kid you not, while I was there's a girl that walked right past me. And I just turned around, I said something to her, she wasn't receptive, I moved on. And I didn't have to go walk her down, or basically it didn't take any mental real estate for me to do that. And that's how you want this to be. And the reason why this is going to be important is because of something that most people don't talk about when it comes to dating, and that's your location, right? Where exactly do you live? So if you are focusing on yourself, you're building a social routine that's around what you like, and you're not running into women at all, then that will gear you towards the main problem that's going on in your situation in the first place, which is that you're living in an area where there's not enough foot traffic of people that you can meet. So then that's going to make you focus on the real problem, which is focusing on actually designing your life, or creating the ability to put yourself in those environments, right? So if the problem is that you're living in a city where there's no one around, there's not enough foot traffic, then maybe the solution is that you need to make a move at some point, right? And maybe the solution to that is that you're not where you are financially, and that was the problem of your dating life and meeting women. That was the problem all along, is that you basically wasn't making enough. Your income wasn't where it needed to be, so you could move to a place where you could meet women, where you could meet people, where you could be in an area that had enough foot traffic, right? And that honestly is something that I'm realizing is a big part of what was going on with me, which is why I was doing all this hunting in the first place, right? Not saying that's what it is for you, but if you basically work your situation that way, then it will expose a lot of the underlying problems that were there that you didn't realize, right? Which brings me to the second point, which is something that I'm practicing for myself, is basically I only approach the women that are in my bubble, right? So what that means is, as I'm going around, let's just say I went to the park and I'm doing pull-ups, and at that moment in time, I'm not thinking about women. But let's just say a girl walks past me. So that girl, I can talk to her. And I didn't have to basically move my feet to go up to her. It just so happened that we were in the situation and she passed my bubble. The reason why I think that's important is because I don't think, this is just my opinion, again, I don't think you should be putting a lot of effort in having basically approaching women take a lot of mental real estate in your mind where that's what you're thinking about. So in that scenario where I'm just standing there doing my own thing, and basically I'm talking to the people that run into my bubble, most people that I talk to, you're going to get no's a lot more than you're going to get yes. So for me, in terms of return on investment, the less active pursuit I can put into that, where I'm using my own time to talk to women, the better it is for me, if that makes sense. So if I'm living my own social life and I'm basically I'm talking to people in real time, rather than me taking the time out of my day to go after this person or go to a specific grocery store to make sure that I can meet people, that right there, the return rate on that to me isn't worth it, right? So that's the second point. And then when it comes to basically approaching the girl, so let's just say you're hitting a workout and this girl is in front of you, you strike a conversation and she seems receptive to it. What you do in that conversation, this is very important. This is about setting the date. This is about how exactly do you set the date, right? What you do in that situation is you flirt with her, And then you set the date on the premise that you two are enjoying this back and forth, and you want to keep it going either later tonight or tomorrow night. So what does that mean basically? So what that means is basically, usually when you see a girl that you're attracted to and you're approaching her, you're talking to her and you're asking her for her number on the premise that you saw her, and then you're approaching this girl that you're interested in, and then you want to get her number, right? But this premise is slightly different, because it's not that you saw her and then you're asking her for her number. It's more so you saw her. The reason why you are talking to her is because you saw her, but you're not asking her number because you saw her. You're asking her number because you like the flirting exchange that's happening between you. So that assumes that when you were having the conversation with this girl, at some point you were flirting with her and she was reciprocating it, and you could both sense that. And that's the premise on which you guys are exchanging the number, right? So that's very different from, okay, I saw this girl, I'm going to approach her to ask her number. That's very different from that, right? Because with this, what that means is when you go and approach the girl, as you're talking to her, there's a chance that you might actually not ask her for a number. Because if you're flirting with her and she's not reciprocating, you can't say, well, I like what's happening here. You can't say you like what's happening and let's meet on that premise, because she's not reciprocating it. So this makes it so that she has to reciprocate the flirting energy that you're giving her, right? So basically you have this energy inside of you and you're pumping it into her. That's what's happening. So you flirt with her, then you set the date on the premise that you two are enjoying this back and forth, and you want to keep it going later tonight or tomorrow night. So that's what needs to happen. You approach her, and then you flirt with her, and then this back and forth that you guys are doing, you guys are meeting to keep that going. That's why you guys are meeting. And the second part of that is how you close the conversation. So the way you close the conversation would go something like this. You basically would tell her, you definitely like what you're feeling. Let me see. Let's see. You definitely like what you're feeling. Let's keep this going. Right? Something along those lines. And what I meant to write here, basically, this is just to kind of like put more emphasis on the idea that you guys are meeting based on what's happening in this conversation, right? So you basically acknowledge what's happening in the conversation. So to take it an extra step further is you can acknowledge what's happening in the conversation and get her to confirm on what's happening. So, yeah, I definitely like what I'm feeling here. You feel that, right? You see what's going on? Yeah, I see what's going on. Or she acknowledges it in some type of way. And then you close by saying, all right, I want to keep this going with you. And I know the perfect spot, whatever it is. Let's just say a place. The spot has to be a place that you think in your mind would have you extremely comfortable to escalate with this woman when you are in this situation. So for me, that's a speakeasy, that's a lounge, right? So once I tell this woman, all right, I definitely like what I'm feeling, my closing statement is going to be, I want to keep this going with you. And I know this lounge, that would be perfect. That would be the perfect spot for it later tonight. How does 9 p.m. sound? So I'm setting the date right then and there. And so once you say something along those lines, let's just say for you, you like to grab ice cream, right? So it's an ice cream shop. So you would tell her, I want to keep this going with you. I want to keep this going with you. And I know this ice cream shop that would be perfect. That would be the perfect spot for it later tonight. How does 7 p.m. sound? Something along those lines. You just plug and play, right? And then if she says something like, well, I can't do tonight, how about tomorrow? Then you say, all right, cool. Let me grab your number and I'll text you the location. If she says, really, or if she's backtracking, she's sidetracking you from this like line. So you might ask her a question, she answers you with another question, and she's doing it playfully, right? She might like, oh really? How do you know that? Or where are you from? Right? Like she backtracked it from something else. What I can tell you is usually 9 times out of 10, that's not going anywhere. So what's happening there is that she likes the attention that you're giving her, but she's not actually interested in making anything happen and moving towards you guys getting in a scenario where you can make a move, right? She's not interested in that. So if she's deviating from this line, she either tells you, well, tonight works or tomorrow works or Wednesday or 2 nights from there from today works. If she tells you anything other than that, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, even if she's being playful, she's laughing in your face, I'm telling you, in most cases, from what I've experienced, this woman is not really interested in what you're trying to do. I'm telling you. So she has to say some version of this. She has to say, okay, yeah, that works, or tomorrow night works, right? If she says, what else? If she says, well, we can text, we can talk first, right? Like, we can talk first. Take my number, we can talk first. You tell her some version of, that won't work for me, but it was nice talking to you. Have a good one, right? Like, you have to end it, I'm telling you, because you're going to end up wasting your time. So basically what ends up happening is you flirt with the woman and you only set up a date with a woman who is exchanging this flirtatious energy with you, and you only grab the number from a woman who agrees to the date that you're set up. So throughout this whole conversation, you're not even grabbing your phone to grab her number to do anything until she actually agrees to the date. So you're flirting, setting up the date all before you get the number. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to grab the number on the right premise. Because she has to agree to what's going on in the conversation and the reason why you guys are meeting. So what I used to do is I used to try to backdoor this and basically approach her on the premise of, well, I see this girl, I want to get to know her, let me grab her number. And then I'll set the date on the back end. But this would waste a lot of time for me, because the girl could have gave me her number, but she wasn't necessarily into the premise that I had in my head. Like, I didn't communicate that with her, nor did I get some sort of confirmation that she would be willing to meet me on that premise, if that makes sense, right? So she has to say that. Let's just say she says something like, what else? She says something like, what else could she say? I don't give my, something like, if she asks you any other question, like you ask her the question, how does 9 p.m. sound? She asks you a question, red flag. I'm telling you, move it on, right? So she says, all right, boom. You say, how does 9 p.m. sound? She says, yeah, that sounds good. You say, all right, here, let me grab your number and I'll text you the location. You see, like you're grabbing her number so you can text her the location of the place. That's why. Now, the second version of this is if you're already at a social setting. Very important, right? Very important. If you're already at a social setting, meaning like, let's just say you are at that bar, you're playing pool and you're seeing a girl there. You met a girl there and now you're within a conversation. Like, you found yourself in a conversation going back and forth with this girl. And as the night is progressing, you're still talking to this girl. What this situation is about, it really comes down to you. At some point in the conversation, you have the balls to say, let's take this back to your place or my place. That's really what it comes down to. So what I realized with me was that a lot of my fuck ups in that scenario, in those scenarios, it really came down to I didn't have the balls to let the girl, to move the conversation towards, hey, let's take this back to your place or my place, to where I would fuck up by grabbing this girl number again to then invite her out to go back to step 1, 2, 3 when I'm already at step 3, right? So this is all about basically having the confidence to say, let's take this back to my place or your place. And then right before that point, it's all about having the balls to build sexual tension and then breaking the touch barrier. So you basically you're talking to her, and then you did the flirting, and then you are building sexual tension with her, and then you're breaking the touch barrier. A lot of building sexual tension, by the way, is what I found is basically you are acknowledging, again, you're bringing the attention towards the tension that's between you and her. So you guys are talking about it. So a lot of it is about you being confident about acknowledging and being open about what's happening right here and now between you and this girl. Whereas you're not avoiding and sidestepping that conversation. So you're letting her know how she's making you feel right now. You can feel the tension that's happening right now. You're looking at her while you're saying that, and she breaks by smiling, right? Like, that's a lot of what it is. And then as that's going on, then you let her know, hey, we should take this back to your place. Or like you find out the logistics, like, where are you from around here? Like, are you near here or something? Or if you have your own place, you tell her, I'm here. What are you doing after this later? Okay, well, with what's going on right now, I think we should take this back to my place, right? You tell her that. And then if she's not, and then you're going to know basically if she's into what you're talking about or not, right? So that's basically it when it comes to building that confidence. Taking it from the top, building your life, focusing on your situation, and let that expose whether or not you're living in the right area or not, right? As opposed to trying to manually go out there and do this door-to-door style of hunting women. I guarantee you, from that alone, if you make that change, your confidence is going to skyrocket, because you're not moving in social situations to basically consciously go out there hunt. You're letting the situations that are in your situation and interacting with them. And I'm not talking about no choosing signals. I'm talking about where you're doing your thing and whoever's in your orbit, you're talking to them. That's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that you want me to talk about when it comes to building social confidence in general. Because this doesn't have to stick to just women. Because again, I'm not a dating coach, right? But yeah, that's it for the video. Peace.